and I died.
Hey guys, how's it going? Boris Download here, and today I'm going to do something a little bit different. Instead of me bringing a gameplay video where I just show you some moments from me playing Siege with my friends, or some walkthroughs of The Division, I'm going to do something that I've mentioned previously, but had never really acted on. So talking with one of my subscribers recently, it was suggested to me that I should do top 5 operators for attack and defense on Siege. So that's what I'm going to do today. This video is going to be my top 5 attackers. Now I want to make it clear from the start, I'm not necessarily saying these are the best 5 operators, that everybody should always use one of these. I'm not saying that at all. Everybody has their own choice of which operators they like, they don't like, which ones they work well with. These are just my personal 5 favourites that I enjoy using the most. I'm not saying either that this is my ideal team, that every team should consist of these operators. Again, it's all down to personal preference. These are just my individual favourites. So let's head into it. So my number 5 on my list of attackers is going to be the French attacker Montaigne. I don't know if it's pronounced Montaigne, like Champagne, Montaigne, however it's pronounced. I just think he's a really, really useful operator. He's a great pointman with his expandable shield. And that shield is basically indestructible from the front. No matter how much you fire at him from the front, if he's got his shield expanded, you cannot hit him from the front. The drawback, of course, being that you can't, if you're playing as Montaigne and you've got your shield expanded, you cannot use your weapon. So you're basically left defenseless. But this man's not meant to be a one-man killing machine. What he's meant to be there to do is to be a point man for the team, to go into rooms first, get some information on who they're facing, where they are, sort of what the rest of the team needs to be going into. And I think he does that really, really well. He's heavy armoured, which means he can take a couple of bullets if someone tries to get around him. Obviously, like all shield operators, he is vulnerable to nitrocells as he's quite slow. But I just think he generally makes a really, really good attacker. His 2 weapons, the Magnum and the P9, are both good choices. I tend to go with the P9, as you can see here, simply because it's more accurate and it's got a better rate of fire. The Magnum, although it does much better damage, you've really got to be aiming down the sights if you want to score a hit with it, and that drops your shield down, just leaves you far too vulnerable. Anyway, a really great attacker, and he takes my number 5 spot. So coming in at number 4 is Thatcher. Thatcher's an attacker from the SAS, and his special ability is his EMP grenades. Now these things are really, really useful. You can throw one in a room and they will basically take out any defender devices within that room, within a certain range. So it'll take out nitrocells, it'll take out the cameras if they're within range, it'll deal with mutes, jamming devices, banded shot wires, Capcans, traps, just about anything they can put down. And that's what makes him really, really useful, because A, it means you're not going to walk into a trap, you're not going to get blown up by a Capcan trap you didn't see coming. But also, he plays really well as a good team player, because if there's a reinforced wall that's blocked by a jamming device and Thermite can't breach it, if Thatcher just throws one of his grenades down, it doesn't even have to be in the room, because you can actually wallbang with these things. The blast will go through the walls. They can just throw one of these down and it'll take out the device, and that means that Thermite then can go and lay down his charge and breach into the room. So he makes a really, really useful attacker. Now here I'm going to demonstrate something that's quite cool if you play with Thatcher on Terrorist Hunt. Now, as you can see, if you throw down one of his EMP grenades near one of the bomber terrorists, it will actually take out his device. And this means that he can no longer detonate. It doesn't show up very well in this clip, but you throw it down, he will then be stunned for a moment, a bit like when you throw a flashbang, and this will give you an opportunity to get a headshot on him. If you don't get the headshot, then he'll back away, and then he basically becomes a more heavily armoured terrorist. But that's taken out one of the major threats, and that's why I find him really useful in things like Terrorist Hunt. But equally in player versus player, he's a really strong attacker. His weapons are pretty good. The AR-33, which is sort of his signature weapon, is a really strong assault rifle. The L85A2, which is standard for the SAS attackers, is really good as well. The shotgun, which he uses, I've never found that much use for. I guess it could be useful for putting holes in walls to throw your grenades through. But anyway, a really strong attacker, and I think he's one of the ones that should be on every team. My number 3 attacker is Fuse from the Russian Spetsnaz. Now, Fuse's special ability is his cluster charge grenade, and this thing is a lot of fun to play with. You can mount it on a wall, a window, a door, a floor, and it'll just spray grenades through on the other side. And you can clear a room with this thing. It's just so much fun to use. You got to, of course, be careful if you're playing if you're playing on hostage, because the grenades will kill the hostage, and I've seen that happen too many times. So be careful if you're playing like that. What you're going to see here is I'm going to put a charge down on the floor, and I'm not going to get any kills with it this time, but what I am going to do is you're just going to see on the right it says welcome mat destroyed. And so basically not only does it kill people, these grenades will take out any enemy equipment, similar to what Thatcher does, only Thatcher is designed to do this. Fuse is sort of a byproduct. But Fuse he's a really good attacker. I believe that he has heavy armor and slow speed, which is fine if that's the way that you play, which for me sometimes it is. His weapons are really good. He's got the light machine gun that's got really good stopping power, and it's got quite good range as well, as does the AK-12, which is my usual weapon for him. That's a really strong assault rifle, really good damage, really good accuracy and range, so that would be my recommended gun for him. He also has the option of equipping a ballistic shield as his primary, which is an interesting, because he's the only attacker who can equip a shield that doesn't have the shield as their special ability, because Montaigne has his extendable shield, that's his ability, and Blitz has his flash shield, but Fuse just has a standard ballistic shield, and that mixes things up quite nicely. But all in all, Fuse is another really good attacker. His cluster charge is so much fun, and you can really get some good kills with that if you know where to put it. So he comes third on my list. Coming in at number 2, so just short of the top spot, is Thermite. Now, although Thermite doesn't take my personal number 1, he is the single most important attacking operator, and he's the one that should be on every attacking team, and here's why. His special ability is the Brimstone Exothermic Charge, and what this allows him to do is to breach the metal reinforced walls that the defenders can throw up. And this is why he's really important, because he's the only operator that can do that. So if you don't have him on your team, then you're not going to be able to get through these reinforcements into the objective room, and then you're going to be locked out, and that means it's going to be really hard for you to actually win. So you're going to want to make sure you have a Thermite on your team when you go into any match. That being said, he's not purely a utility operator, someone who you have to take because of his ability. He's got some really good weapons as well. The assault rifle that you can see me using here is a really solid weapon. I like using it a lot. It's got some really good damage, quite controllable, quite good accuracy. His other weapon is a shotgun that I haven't found too much use for, but I suppose it would work for some people, especially when you consider his choice of secondary gadgets. He can take either breaching charges, which you can then use in conjunction with your brimstone charges. If you put a brimstone up on a reinforced wall and then a breaching charge on a non-reinforced wall, you can set them both off at the same time. And that'll really sort of cause panic amongst the defenders, because they won't know which way you're going to come from. But his other secondary gadget are frag grenades, and he's one of only 2 operators that can take frag grenades. And so I'd recommend going with those unless, of course, you're playing hostage. But the shotgun could pair really well with those frag grenades, because you could blow a hole in a wall and then lob a grenade through that. So either weapon choice and either gadget choice is viable. He's a he's a lot of fun to play with, because his brimstone charge will just cause so much panic, amongst the defenders. They won't know which way you're going to come from. They won't know. They think that they're safe behind the reinforced walls. They're not. And so, like I say, he's a real necessity. He doesn't quite come number one for me, but like I say, a really, really important operator who you should have on every attacking team. And finally, at number one, we have Sledge from the SAS. Sledge, in my opinion, has always been my favourite attacker. Even before the game was released, when I was just following the blog articles about it, Sledge always stood out to me just because he was so unique. I mean, there are other breaches in the game. You've got Thermite and you've got Ash and like that, and obviously everybody can take breaching charges. But Sledge has the potential to knock so many holes through the map with his breaching hammer, the Caber. And this thing, it's got 25 hits in it, so you can take down 25 walls. Plus, if you give him breaching charges, that's another 3. So you can basically take out 28 walls. Now, I'm not saying that anybody ever has done that. I've certainly never seen the hammer used so much that it couldn't be used again. But the point still stands that Sledge can go almost anywhere that hasn't been reinforced. He's got some pretty good weapons as well. Obviously, he's got the L85A2 assault rifle, a standard for SAS attackers, and that's really good. That's the one I use most. However, his shotgun I also use from time to time, and I like to pair that up with the SMG-11 machine pistol. Now, this has recently been nerfed because people found it was too overpowered. It is meant to be a secondary, and people were using it as a primary, especially if you put an ACOG scope on it. You can then basically use it almost as an SMG rather than as a secondary. And that's what I definitely used to do. I used to take the shotgun, but almost use that as a secondary and use the SMG as my primary, because that way I had long and short range covered. But since the patch, and that's been nerfed a little bit, so I now tend to go more with the assault rifle for a little bit more long range accuracy. Either way, Sledge is a really, really solid attacker. He can take either breaching charges, as I mentioned, or he's the other operator who can take frag grenades. And these are really, really useful, so I would recommend taking those if you're playing Sledge. But overall, he's one of my favourite operators. I love using him. I pick him whenever I can. It's got nothing to do with the fact that he's Scottish. But basically, he is one of my favourite operators without a doubt, and that's why he takes the number one spot on this list. So that's all from me for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. One thing I'd like to say at the end of this: recently my channel passed 1,000 views. It's now on 1,300 and something, which is incredible. Thank you to everybody who's watched any of my videos. I've also recently passed 50 subscribers, which is huge for me. So thank you to everybody who's subscribed. So let's keep going and building from here, guys. Other than that, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you want to see more of what I do. I'll see you out there, guys.
Oh god, my ping.
BAM!
If you want to check out some of my other episodes of Siege, you can find one of those right up here. And if you want to see some of my gameplay of The Division, which I've also been doing, you can find that over here. Please do go and check those out, like and subscribe, and thanks for watching, guys.